Good morning, everyone. Thanks for coming. My name's Chris Atkinson. I'm a delivery coach at Atom Bank, one of two delivery coaches. Together, we are an enabling team. We report into the Chief of Staff, and our purpose statement is we help teams to get better at getting better. So we work across the whole organisation to help optimise ways of working at Atom. I'm also, outside of work and inside of work, a proud Sooner Safer Happier advocate for the past year or so now. We're on a mission as a shared learning community to help organisations achieve better outcomes in a more humane world of work by sharing the patterns and anti-patterns from the book, which hopefully everyone's aware of. If not, I can spot John in the crowd. Maybe he's got some copies to hand out today. I'm going to be joined shortly by my friend and colleague Gareth Chester, who leads our data visualization team in Atom as well. And we're going to talk about how to achieve faster flow optimization with automated value stream maps. We're probably sharing this a little bit early, if I'm honest, but there's some intent in that. So we're on a bit of a journey. We want to share that learning really quickly. We think we might be doing something we can't find anybody else doing yet. So the sooner someone shares that, the sooner we can all start to learn from each other. But a little bit about Atom Bank, if you're not aware of us. So we are about 10 years old now, based in the northeast of England, less than 600 people. Our mission is to change banking for the good, for better, for everyone. And we want to do that by making saving and borrowing simpler, faster, and better value than anyone else. Customers engage with us through mobile apps. That's the primary source for customers who interact with us. We have got a award-winning UK-based contact centre for when things go wrong, and we offer savings, mortgages, and business lending products. Over the last 3 to 5 years, we've been on a bit of a ways of working journey, evolving our ways of working. We've organised people around value streams. We followed the team topologies principles in terms of how those teams are made up and how they interact with each other. And we've become more and more framework agnostic as we become more aligned to optimise for outcomes, those outcomes being better value, sooner, safer, happier, and therefore much more focused on flow. So we use principles from Agile, Lean, DevOps, systems thinking, but we don't impose any hard or rigid frameworks. You might have spotted my job title as delivery coach rather than agile coach. That's intentional again, to try and be a bit more agnostic about framework and focus more on what outcome we want to achieve, how do we optimize for flow. So a big part of that journey has been value stream mapping. So hands up if anyone in this room has ever run a value stream mapping session or been involved in value stream mapping. Excellent. Find it useful? See some nods? Yeah. Anyone not got around to do it, wants to do it, but hasn't had a chance to do it yet? No? Does everyone want to do it a little bit more than they currently do? Yes. So what stops you? Shout out, please. What stops you at the moment from maybe creating and using value stream maps? Budget, time, people's time. Right, great, yeah. Wider understanding of value. Anything else? Someone who new to the team, doesn't really know how things work yet. Okay, cool. Yeah, so I hear this a lot when I'm talking to people about things in the way of value streams mapping, and I felt this myself as well. So the time investment and logistics required to organise a mapping session can be huge, right? Bigger the team, the more people you need to take away from the work, the more complex the value stream, the longer you'll need to map it. Then there's source and data, right? So lots of sources of data in the organisation. You might be in and out of Jira, loads of MI, or if you haven't got that data, you might be relying on anecdotal information. And then once you've got a map, does anyone struggle to keep it up to date and relevant? You might have spent all day mapping, you might not come back for a month and already things have changed. So I felt all those challenges as well. This is what a typical value stream mapping session looked like in Atom about 18 months ago. Teams offline for maybe a whole afternoon or a full day. Lots of digging around various sources of data, lots of various roles and responsibilities in the room. There's also the time needed for someone like me to facilitate the session, explain what a value stream map is, explain what active states are and wait states are, and so on. We run a little thing called Lean Pizza, where we have a mock pizza shop, and we map the flow of value first for that, teach people the principles, and then off we go and map in the real world. So after about 6 to 8 hours, a few gallons of coffee, and lots of pizza, you might end up with something that looks a bit like this. Oh, clicked one too early. Looks a bit like this. Some big, long, complicated map with sometimes up to 100 nodes. That's before you even start having the conversation about what needs to change to make things better. And you probably look something like this at the end of that process. A bit wired, a bit knackered, and maybe a stranger comes in the room. This is how they see you, talking to them about all the stuff you've found. So here's kind of a map of the map, if you like. You've got to gather the right people. You've got to align on what mapping practices you're using. You've got to collect data, create your value stream map, and at only that point are you doing the real purpose of why you're in the room, right, which is to start finding opportunities to improve, generating actual ideas, running experiments, checking out the results, and here, actual improvement at the end of it. So there's this huge, big upfront investment to get to the real good stuff. Once you've got some ideas and you put them into action, you come and then back to measure that. You've probably got to remap the whole value stream again to see if you've made any difference. And that got me thinking about a year ago. I've been doing value stream maps in various roles for about 15 years. First one I did was straight off a Lean Six Sigma Green Belt course, and I was sat in a mail room watching people open physical mail, sorting the envelopes out with my stopwatch and my clipboard. It's not too different from a value stream map I was doing about a year ago. And nothing seems to have really changed in the process itself and how we do maps in the last 15 years, other than maybe digital whiteboarding and remote access for people. So I had a few light bulb moments over the past year, and the first one of those was from this excellent book, Flow Engineering, by Steve Piera, who did a talk last year at Fast FlowConf that you might have seen. I wasn't here, but I saw it on YouTube and enjoyed it very much after reading the book. And a huge light bulb moment for me was this principle of mapping really high level your product or software development lifecycle in the highest possible, fewest nodes possible, and then finding a bottleneck, and then digging and subsequently mapping the next layer. Steve says, only dig where you know there's gold. And I thought, amazing, right. The next time I'm going to do a value stream mapping session, we're not going to sit and do a 150 node value stream map. We're going to simplify the flow as much as we can, but I'm still going to need data to do that, to find out where those bottlenecks are. And that got me thinking about data and how things have changed. Certainly for Atom, we're mostly hybrid or remote working, as well as in the office. Everything we do is on a laptop. We've got tons of workflow management and tools like you see on the screen there now for ways we interact with work, ways we visualize work, where we track work. Anyone who's got a Jira workflow will probably understand they inherently have active and wait states in them if they're done right. So that was the second light bulb for me, is actually, we've got all this data, it's just really hard to find it, and there's not too many places where I can visualize that. And then on to Gareth and his amazing team who've been introducing the bank to Tableau. Other data visualization tools are available, I'm told. But Tableau was the next light bulb for me. Seeing the dashboards that this team were creating for stakeholders in the organization, and not just charts, but really creative ways of visualizing data, ways I didn't know were possible at all. So that led to this kind of, okay, these new principles from flow engineering, lots of data in the organization I know is there, I just don't know how to catch it, and this fancy visualization tool. What if there was a way to kind of automatically build a value stream map for any given team or piece of work that kind of sucks all this data in from the organization, maps it into the highest flow possible, and that turned into this vision. So I got slides out and started carving out what would I want this tool to look like. So up in the top corner here, imagine you can go in there and kind of select data. Do I want to look at a particular value stream? Maybe I want to look at a value stream aligned team. Maybe I want to look at certain issue types for that team and then set a date range. And now I can see the throughput of that team over time, and I can see all the fancy stuff I'd like to see in terms of flow efficiency, flow distribution, as well as the value stream map. Maybe though I just want to look at an initiative or a product that was something that we did that was quite big, maybe cut across several teams, several value streams, several value stream aligned teams or a platform team, and we could filter that piece of work and then see how that's cut across the organization. And then for free, kind of get lead time and some DORA metrics out of that as well. So naturally, after having this moment, I thought about, okay, We could dig then into, say I want to look at what's going on in test. To Steve's point about dig where there's gold, I can then click on that, see the next layer, and so on. This is the point in time where I now look like this again, kind of thinking I've got this crazy idea, I've got no idea how possible it is. So at that point, I reached out to friend and colleague Gareth, who's a real data wizard in Atom. He's affectionately known in Atom as Tableau Gandalf because of his wizardry. And I'd like to ask Gareth to join us on the stage now. True data wizard. I explained this crazy idea to Gareth, who simply kind of just went, yeah, I think we can do this. And he's going to show you it now. So we're going to do a bit of a live demo, some code maybe. But first, Gareth, do you want to tell us a bit about the solution?
Yeah, so when Chris came to me, obviously I was aware we had data available, mostly from Jira, bits of Git, bits of other things. As usual, you start to think, what's the most we can do? Let's get everything in, and then realise that's going to take forever. So we decided proof of concept. We'll just look at Jira itself specifically. We're going to leave product discovery. We're going to leave GitLab for now. We're just going to see Jira, make sure it works. I'm going to put this down. It's so distracting. And we'll design a Python script to connect to the API. I'll put it in, I'll automate it, drop it into BigQuery, and provide that into Tableau. Again, that'll take too long. So for a proof of concept, we'll choose a handful of Jira tickets. I think we chose about 50 in the end from one project that we knew would give us a vague idea of what a cycle looked like. It's not representative of the performance of the bank in general, but it gives us enough that we can make sure that the product's working, we're happy with it, and we would manually copy that into Notepad, which was a bit of a painstaking process, but gave us a proof of concept. So, there we go. So anyone who is not familiar with Jira data, that is the Jira API output. Even as a data person, that means nothing to me. I'm not going to get anything out of that at all. I can press this amazing new button of pretty print. Now, as a data person, I might start to understand that a little bit, but not massively. It's still quite abstract, quite difficult to read. And also, that's one ticket. And as you can see, there is a lot on one ticket. That's every time it's moved status. That's every comment that's left in there. Anything that's happened in that Jira ticket, I've now got. Copy and paste that, do that 50 times, ingest that into Tableau, and we get something that looks a little bit like that. So Chris, this is your toy. What would you want to look at first? What on there jumps out as something that you would want to investigate?
So first up, just in case it wasn't super clear on my mock-up, we can see flow efficiency, big red bar at the top. For this team in question, they look after a UI that faces brokers who interact with customers. And you can see, I think there's 6 weeks worth of data, like you said, in here. And the throughput's 32, if you can see, and done. So this team have put 32 things in production in that time frame. Straight away, I can see the lead time, cycle time, and lead time for change for those tickets and the overall flow efficiency. And now I can see these mini flow efficiency bars. So the first thing, Gareth, I'm thinking about is QA to release. 91% of tickets went through there, so that may be something we want to look at a bit closer.
You want to point?
Here.
Yeah.
What's going on there?
Click on that. And we can see these are the tickets and where they went to. So up at the top, I'll put the tickets that have not followed my optimal value stream. So the important thing to remember with this is we've written down in an Excel document exactly what we think the flow should be. Now, we know that's not always going to be the case. Things don't work with the flow, and the idea is to surface that in this tool. So immediately we can see these 3 tickets here went from QA, and they didn't go to release where I expect them to. They went back to in development. That's fine. That's expected. That's the point of QA. We've realized those tickets are unsafe and sent them back. So it's a proof, firstly, that our testing strategy and our quality assurance is working. But if they'd gone somewhere else, say they've gone from in QA to done, or in QA to ready to dev, they'd flag up there as well, and then we'd know we've got problems, we've got people working outside of the flow, and we can go to got the actual ticket reference, we can go to that ticket and investigate what's happening with that.
So sticking with QA then, 69% flow inefficiency. Let's have a closer look, Gareth, please, at QA. live demo, spinny wheel. And then these are the workflow states that make up QA, right? Active and wait.
Nicely color-coded, so we now know.
So let's go with the longest bottleneck then. Ready to deploy to prod, pre-prod, 0.9 days.
So we can drill down a bit further. Now, if you had multiple layers of stages at this point, you could demonstrate those kind of as multiple layers. We've gone with a two-layer process. But what happens when I drill down a bit further? It's now going to tell me for each ticket how many hours it's spent. We've moved to hours from days because 0.9 days isn't that useful to see. So for every ticket, we can see how many hours it has spent in that status. And it gives us two things. One, it helps us identify problem tickets. If we can go, these 3 tickets, or these 2 tickets in this example, spent 170 hours ready to deploy to pre-pod. I've now got a ticket reference for those. I can go back to the developer, I can find out what's going on. It also allows me to do some kind of proper statistical, or think about these things statistically. That 0.9 days, is that a genuine, everything's clustering around 0.9 days, or as we have here, have we got a really, really long tail of tickets that are taking quite a while? And then a lot of tickets that are in the 1-2 hour phase. So actually, is 0.9 days that much of an issue? Am I that concerned? Or once I've taken those 2 tickets out, does it look a lot better? The other thing we've done is we've flagged whether there's any comments. As a developer, or kind of an ex-developer, this is a bugbear of people either leaving or being asked to leave comments all the time. But this is quite useful because we can go, well, this ticket took 122 hours, there's some comments, and I can bring the comments up and then start reading those and start to understand what might have happened with that ticket to cause it to sit in that state for so long. So I will hand back.
And that will hand back the power. Put my laptop down. So hopefully you can see there that there's a really good starting point for a really nice diagnostic tool for teams, something that takes out a load of that manual effort to get in the room and start mapping up. It's not perfect, but it's probably the same source of truth you'll find if you go and collecting the data manually from Jira to create the map. We're going to do some time, hopefully, for Q&A, but what we wanted to do today as well is share some other ideas. So there's a handful of us working on this in Atom right now, and it'll take us some time to get it right. One of the reasons we wanted to share the learning early was to kind of get people's thoughts and feelings and hopefully inspire some people to have a go at this themselves and join a bit of a community to see what we can do with it. But we've had loads of other ideas while we've been doing this that we can't focus on just now because we're wanting to get the tool working in the right way and with all teams. So I wanted to share some free ideas that you can steal if you like today as well. And the first one of those is automated team topologies diagrams. So hopefully everyone's familiar with team topologies at this conference and the concept of a team API. Usually that's in some kind of form, right, or wiki page. If you take your team API data and put it in a table, so each row being a team, each column then being the information from the team API, so the team name, the team type, teams they interact with or provide a service to, and the interaction mode, you could create the same principle we used to make this tool to create real-time automated team topologies diagrams. You update the team API, the diagram changes and reflects that change. Really, really useful tool, I think, for teams. Anyone out there who's had to map multiple team topologies and interactions and keep those up to date, hopefully see some value in that. And the next bit's dependency mapping. So we know one of the biggest bottleneck reasons when we do value stream maps is usually dependencies on other teams. Again, we've got loads of sources of data that show us where teams are interacting with each other. So in Atom, that'll be in Jira, it'll be Slack channel messages, it'll be Google Calendar meetings, pull requests, merge requests, and the aforementioned team topology interactions. We can capture all that data and create dependency maps, right? That show us real-time who's interacting with who, how frequently, and whether that's as designed or not could be really insightful.
One thing I think is very powerful with this as well is it allows us to churn anecdotes into data. So we've always had this kind of mantra of the plural of anecdote is not data, but in this case we can start to do that. As a developer, I know who I speak to, but I don't know if that's common across all of my team. I don't know whether that should be happening or not. So if we start to do this, we can again start to pull out those examples where there are conversations happening that exist outside of what we thought our topologies were and see what our topologies actually are.
And it wouldn't be a talk at a conference in 2025 without an AI mention. So, Gareth, how could AI help us in this space?
Yeah, so there's a couple of big ones. The first one is your trend mapping, your where are things going wrong before I know they're going wrong. So AI can monitor exactly how long things are taking, where things are taking longer and longer and starting to become a problem, and can flag up, actually, this process that was taking 2 days looks like it's going to take 10 days in a few weeks. You need to start thinking about that. You need to start analysing it. There's also the ever-popular chatbot, again, because this is now structured data, admittedly in a text file, but will be in a BigQuery data set. We can attach that to any one of a variety of agent options, for instance, Google's agent space, and then start to query that in natural language, which again allows us to see kind of exact level, having conversations with the data without having to come to the likes of Chris and go, can you bring all this together, and here's the questions I want to ask, and having that back and forth. They can start having that conversationally with the data straight off.
So, call to action for everyone today at conference. I want you to start automating your flow visualization. Why should you do that? First of all, hundreds of hours saved manually mapping that you can reinvest in actually fixing stuff. Less reliance on those anecdotes and recency bias when you're in the room. Everything's based on data. It doubles up as free flow metrics reporting. So just getting lead time, flow efficiency as metrics, reportable metrics, is a massive win in itself. And then this democratizes the whole concept of mapping. So talked at the start about needing to get someone like myself in a room to facilitate a session. Someone mentioned being new to a team and not really know anything about the system. This really democratizes flow in a way that ex-core member all the way to a brand new team member can get in and start looking at what's going on with the work, dig around, find bottlenecks, ask questions, challenge assumptions. And I think that's really important for any organization to have.
Yeah, on the self-serve access, anyone who's been to any of the Tableau events, probably not many people in this room, but there is a supermarket that they work with, who sort of remain nameless, that they tell a story. Basically, they put all of their sales data and all of their production data into Tableau and provided it to every single person in the business. One of their bakery staff, again, kind of to this anecdote to data pipeline, thought he knew that certain types of bread were selling differently at different times of day, and they were throwing away some and discounting others. By providing him with that data, he was able to prove that and establish a model where if you baked this type of bread then, and this type of bread then, and this type of bread then, you'd bake exactly the amount of bread you needed, sell it, you wouldn't be discounting, you wouldn't be selling out of something that was popular, you'd be able to meet those kind of demand spikes. Again, someone at C-suite level, even kind of someone at Chris's level as a coach, isn't going to have the insight to know that, to even start looking. Developer on the ground, who's dealing with this day in, day out of the coalface, probably will have that experience and will know exactly where to start looking for those problems. So by providing that data to everybody in the business, you can start to drive those solutions from the bottom up as much as from the top down. And
the last point is just, again, handful of us got to this point so far. Imagine what we can do as a wider community if we start thinking about this stuff a bit broader. And that's us. We've kept 5 minutes, hopefully, for questions. You can find me and Gareth on LinkedIn and more about Atom Bank at atombank.co.uk. Thank you very much.